sort of from scratch. But we're not going to start completely from scratch. We're going to use Create React App, which is one of several projects for just starting out new React apps with some boilerplate already there, some sort of project templates. But Create React App is official. It's from Facebook, who also make React. Here's a link right there if you want to read up on it. The README includes the table of contents for the user guide, which is really, really good if you ever want to know a little more about Create React App and some of the stuff that we don't have time to get to in class. There's all kinds of information here. But all we need to do is run it. So make sure you are not inside another project folder. Do not do this from inside Dwarf Underground or the other thing, Chris Mess. Make sure to do it a level up from there, right? The same project where you would create a new, same folder where you would create a new project, because that's what we're doing. So once you're in the right folder, run Create React App. Oh, and by the way, we'll have the same problem with the guest network and all that stuff. So if some of you want to switch to the guest network right off the bat, just save us some bandwidth. Go for it, like you did yesterday. Create React App, and then the name of your app. So I like horrible puns. So something like Chat on a Hot Tin Roof or The Chat's Pajamas or whatever. I'm going to call it Chatarang. That's nice and short. So Create React App, Chatarang, and it will create a folder for you. Now, in my case, I already did that because I did it this morning. I'm actually going to call mine, I'm going to call my repo Afternoon Chatarang, just to, not Chatarrange, just because. You can just call it Chatarang, yeah. So this should be in your external folder? Yep, exactly. And it will create the folder for that project for you. Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah.
Mine said that it's failing in like aborting installation.
Swell, okay. We'll look at that in just a second. We may have some problems. If we do, we'll work through them. Yep. No, we're going to use the rest of the class to do that.
Wait, I just got into like my extra bootcamp folder. I just remembered how
Create-React-App space Chatarang. App. Create React App. And then the name of your project, just call it Chatarang. I called mine Afternoon Chatarang because I already did Chatarang this morning. Right? And it tells you some stuff when you finish. Tell you that you can run yarn start, yarn build, etc. Don't forget, after you run the command, you will not be in the Chatarang directory yet. So when it finishes, and it may take a while, do cd chat, whatever it's called, cd Chatarang, so you make sure you're in the right directory. Then you can go ahead and open Visual Studio Code. Yeah, we'll give it a few minutes, but I'll go ahead and talk. So while it's going, just pay attention and we'll talk through some stuff. So notice it says you have these scripts that you can run. Yarn start, which we did yesterday. Yarn build, yarn test, yarn eject. So all of those are possible because they're in the package.json file in the project. So these are the scripts. That's what yarn start, yarn build, etc. actually do. And the most interesting one there is eject. So the whole point of Create React App is that it hides a lot of the configuration that's necessary to get something like this up and running. For React, because we use JSX, we need some kind of build system. We have to kind of compile the code. We're really just turning it from JSX to JavaScript. It's still just JavaScript, but still, we have a build process, which means you have to have some sort of tooling set up. And that can be a pain in the neck and could take an entire boot camp to learn. Create React App has that stuff pre-configured in a very sensible way and hides the configuration from you. So that the nice thing is you only end up with 3 dependencies, React, React DOM, and React scripts. So React scripts contains all the tooling necessary to get this thing actually running. So if you run yarn eject, which I don't recommend right now, instead you'll see all your dependencies as they really are, and you'll see those configuration files exposed. Now they'll be pre-configured for you still, but now you can change it yourself. Downside of doing that is if you ever need to upgrade, it's kind of a pain in the neck. This, if there's a new version of Create React App, we can just change the version number here, rerun yarn install, and we have the new version. So if you're curious sometime, just create a new React app out of this and try eject and have a look at what you get. There'll be a config directory. The config files that are there are complex, but they are super thoroughly commented. So it's kind of interesting how all the tooling works, how the CSS works, and all that stuff. So that's what Create React App does for us. Other than that, the files that are here are pretty much the same files that were there in Dwarf Underground before we started, except we don't have static HTML and static CSS because those were our files. Otherwise, it's the same kind of stuff. Git ignore tells us not to do the node modules folder. There's a public folder that has favicon, index.html, and a manifest. We have a source directory that has all our actual components and so on in it, which right now is just the default. If you do have yours running and have changed into the directory, you can type yarn start, and you'll see, assuming you have killed your server from Dwarf Underground. If not, kill it with Control-C. And you'll see this same default app here. Just one sec. Once you do have it, I'm just going to create a first commit before we've even made any changes. So this will not be a Git repository yet, so you'll need to run git init. Just make sure you're in the right directory before you do that. Git init, and then you can commit the way we do in Visual Studio Code if you want. Initial commit with create React app. Won't have any place to push it yet, so don't forget to go out to your GitHub, create a new repository, Chatarang afternoon for me. Create the repository, and then there'll be those two lines that you have to copy. Remember, you need to have committed by the time you do this. I committed in Visual Studio Code, so it should work. So again, to review, you don't need to create this file. I'm just demonstrating the commands you need to run. Create React app, Chatarang, not Chatarange, cd Chatarang, git init, git add, git commit, and then pasted from GitHub, you'll have git remote add origin URL to your project. Git push -u origin master. So these are the things you need to do. And once you've done them, and remember those two commands come from right here, then you'll have your new repository.